Okay, so welcome everybody to Tuesday afternoon's Cuppa Club. I'm delighted to have Michaela Tuckwell, Executive Director and Advisor to the Ultimate Picture Palace, with us today, and Helen Bartlett and Martyn from Bunker Hill Housing Co-operative. So just to start the session off with a little bit of housekeeping, please be advised that we are recording this, and it will be available for review afterwards, and we'll send out a recording to you. Please also do know that this is not financial advice, and if you do need to seek financial advice, please do talk to an independent financial advisor. And finally, very welcoming to your questions. Please do feel free to drop them into the chat box, and I will take those questions and put them to Helen, Martyn, and Michaela. So very excited to have you all here today. If I can just sort of provide some bullet points of the offers. So Ultimate Picture Palace, Oxford's oldest and only independent cinema, doing an absolutely fantastic job, raising £312,575. That's the target. A 3% forecast return, 55% raised already, and in the form of a community benefit society, which has withdrawable shares. That's a bit of a mouthful for Tuesday. And then on the other side of the coin, Bunker Hill Housing. It's a cooperative building affordable housing in Brighton, right in the hotspot of the housing crisis there. Raising 150,000 in loan stock, 33% raised already. It's a 10-year loan stock, offering a 2% return. So welcome to the panelists. If I may start with a bit of a context setting question and ask you to set the scene and provide some context for the impacts, the purpose and the community building. And if I can kick off with you, please, Michaela.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you to Ethex for hosting this Cuppa Club. So it's a pleasure to talk to people who probably don't know the cinema, because I've been talking to lots of people who do know the cinema in the last 2 weeks. So this gives me a chance to talk about the cinema that I really love. So as Paul mentioned, it's the oldest and only independent cinema in Oxford. We are a one-screen small cinema in the east of Oxford in a residential neighbourhood, and it's a special cinema for a number of reasons, but mainly because it has an amazing history. It was built in 1911, and it's gone through a lot of ups and downs in its over 100 years history. It's actually the main character in a documentary called The Ultimate Survivor, which charts its ups and downs. So we've survived things like in 1917, our cinema manager then being called up to war, being a carpet warehouse for 60 years. It was then saved in the 1970s by Bill Heine and Pablo Butcher. They sort of rejuvenated the cinema, but then it almost got shut down by Stanley Kubrick's lawyers when they illegally wanted to show A Clockwork Orange. And then it's been a squat, a community centre. All of the it's had a very colourful history. And it's very important to the people who live around Oxford, who know, who have studied in Oxford, and it's always been saved again and again by people, the film-loving community of East Oxford. The cinema as it is today was bought in 2011 by a woman called Becky Hall Smith. She was a local resident, a local film lover who wanted to have a go at running a cinema, and she did a fantastic job. So she invested in the cinema, brought the beautiful facade up to standards, but now got grade 2 heritage status, and developed the inside. So the cinema is of a fantastic quality, so people can have amazing cinema experience there. And she really developed our programming. So we're what's known as a second run film theatre. So we show films slightly off date. We focus on independent films from here and around the world. About 40% of our films are foreign language titles, and we're also a rep cinema, so that's a repertory cinema. So at least 2 or 3 films a week will be films that are not new releases. They'll be from the canon, which our audiences absolutely love. It's an incredible cinema, and our audiences really love us. They just to give you an example of how important we are to the community. In 2020, when we were running out of money after the pandemic, having been shut for 6 months, we were in a little bit of a hole. We needed to raise £17,000, so we started a crowdfunder, and we raised that in just 2 hours. And this is not from people giving lots of money. It was people giving £10–20, just because a lot of people in Oxford just love the cinema. In the background to the share offer is that in 2018, Becky sadly died, and she dreamt that the cinema would one day become community owned, because she knew just how important the cinema was to the cultural landscape of Oxford, how important it was to the people of Oxford. And so since then we've been planning this community share offer, and it was just 2 weeks ago that we managed to launch it.
Brilliant. That's excellent. Really get the passion. Thanks, Michaela.
No problem.
And Martyn, Helen, you're on mute, so maybe if you come off mute as well. So similar question, maybe if you can tell us a little bit about your backstory, and set the scene for the impact and the community building that you're doing, and why this project is so important at this time.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I can kick that off. I can kick it off by saying thank you to Ethex for hosting this, and also thank you, Michaela, for hearing about. I want to go to your cinema now. It sounds amazing. Yeah, great. So we are Bunker Housing Co-op. We are in Brighton, based in Brighton Hove. Our mission is to build high quality homes for low income people. Our organisation was formed in 2014. And we basically self-build and self-manage the homes for people in Brighton and Hove that are in housing need, and our homes that we build will be affordable in perpetuity. So they're owned by the co-op. We as co-op members run that co-op together, so we kind of collectively own the buildings and run the organisation, and then we become the tenants. So we are the tenants and the landlords of our properties, and the co-op owns the homes. So when people move on, the homes then pass on to other people who are in housing need. So yeah, we are all low-income individuals. We have a earnings cap. We all have a local connection. So we have our membership matches the eligibility criteria for social housing in the city, basically. So we're kind of, in effect, we're sort of self-building social housing. When I say self-building, we don't actually put the houses up ourselves. We kind of manage the process. We work with professional contractors to kind of do that for us. Several reasons. First of all, it's kind of beyond any of our technical skills to do what we're doing. Plus, we need to have warranties and things like that. So it's called self-build, but it's kind of like we self-manage, we organize, and we kind of run it together. So we've been going a while. We finished our pilot scheme in 2020. That was our first 2 sustainable eco homes on a site. They're 2 3-bedroom houses. I'm sitting in one now. So my family was one of the first families. My partner and I were 2 of the founding members, and we've been here now for 2 years, and it's amazing. So we kind of, like other people, it's a way to kind of have an alternative to private rented. Basically, it's for people who aren't in need to be on social housing. housing, and they're not, well, as wealthy as it takes in Brighton, which is quite wealthy now, to be able to get a mortgage. And that's not because people aren't working. Very often it's because they're self-employed or for various other reasons. So it's private rented sector or nothing, and we are providing an alternative. And it's quite an alternative. They're high quality homes with eco-tech, all of that. So fantastic homes. So like I said, we finished our first pilot scheme in 2020. That was working on a site that's leased to us by the local authority, and we have 3 further sites throughout the city, and we are launching this loan stock raise to raise the money to build our next 9 homes. It's not all the money for the homes. It's important to point out that as an organisation, we can take out a commercial mortgage, but the commercial mortgage will only ever cover 80% of the development costs. So we need to raise that 20% ourselves, and that's what the loan stock is for. It's to raise that extra 20%. That takes us up to the full amount. And like I said, it's because we are a zero equity co-op, so none of the people in the co-op have money to put into it ourselves. So that's the kind of background for the 9 homes. I'll pass over to Helen. Got anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I would just say, I mean, Paul touched on it. Obviously, as like many people know, we have a housing market that's totally broken, right? It's absolutely broken. And in places like Brighton, also in Oxford, etc., people like normal working, etc., people are just being priced out and out and out. We saw it in COVID. We also have a climate emergency in which we're not building the homes that the country needs, right? We need to be looking at things that are good to the planet and to the people that live in them. And so bunker is really a way to say what's an alternative what's an alternative to what's being provided at the moment, what's an alternative to the kind of big house builders that aren't delivering the right kind of homes, what's an alternative so that like people who often do the like key work in the city can afford to live in the city that they grow up in, so kids don't have to move out of the cities that they're born in. So it's really like a group of people who are saying things aren't working, and what can we do? What can we do to like provide alternatives? And alternatives that I think so important to say, both that, like people have ownership over and can manage, have a sense of home in, but also like it will be affordable forever. Once they're in a co-op, they don't go back into private ownership. So they're affordable in perpetuity for the people who set them up, who live in them now, but also for kind of generations after. So that's that. So the loan stock offer is the next 2 homes, but actually like bunker has like super big plans that are both about bunker as an organisation, but also how we set other co-ops and other community-led housing groups to kind of deliver alternatives to what we have already.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, Helen. I think it's really important to know that it's part of a much wider movement that's creating homes for people at affordable rates, very good quality homes with all the latest technology in terms of insulation and heating and future proofing for whatever's coming down the track with the climate changes. So yeah, really thank you for that. That's fantastic. So turning a little bit, that's a bit of the backstory. So turning to some of the what are you using the funds for specifically? So I'm going to turn back to Michaela. So in the offer document, you're using a lot of the money to actually buy the cinema. That's correct, right? Mm-hmm. And also to improve the cinema and to create a better experience, or an even better experience, I should say. And I know the cinema because I'm on my office, which is in the old music hall in Cowley Road, is just around the corner. It's got a beautiful Art Deco facade to it. It's a beautiful looking building, so very attractive in its own right. But really interested to know how you're going to use the money to improve the experience for your existing audience, and also how to attract new audiences and members.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I think those 2 questions, how we're going to grow new audiences and also increase the make the audience experience better, are 2 questions that are completely intertwined. And I guess the starting point for this is that to say that we are a really successful cinema. We, yes, have gone through the pandemic, but the independent cinema sector has been much more resilient than the commercial sector in terms of getting audiences back after the pandemic. So we're now at 95% of our audiences that we were, or admissions, sorry, that we were receiving in 2019, which is an amazing feat of audiences wanting to support their independent cinemas. People have really realized how important those independent sectors of, gig venues and theatres, that people want to support us, but also that the film slate is incredible at the moment, and there's really great independent films that continue to be made. So first of all, say this is a really successful cinema, but we do want to grow our audiences and we do want to improve our customer experience. And I've always come at this from the place of, as the executive director of the cinema, but also the Community Benefit Society board that have been managing this community share offer. We've always been really interested in making sure that our cinema is for everyone. There are a lot of real barriers to people coming to the cinema, price being one of them. Perceptions of independent cinema not being for everyone is another one, the big one, and also accessibility in terms of the deaf and disabled communities, so lack of subtitling, things like this. As a person who comes from a community arts background with this particular interest in accessibility and disability arts, this is what gets me up in the morning. I'm really excited about this. So our plans are to make the cinema the most accessible cinema in the country, and also be advocates for this within the film cinema sector, especially the independent cinema sector. So we are going to, as well as look at the infrastructure, so we're going to be putting in accessible loos, because currently we just have, our site is not 100% accessible. We're going to be looking at the accessibility of the projection room, because at the moment you have to scurry up a tiny little ladder that I can't even do in order to get to the projection room, and we would like to do tours for children and get really people of all ages excited about what goes on behind creating and making a cinema run, and then also looking at, and this is the thing that I had learned from my other role, which was creating a disability arts festival in Oxford. A large part of the barriers in which for getting deaf and disabled audiences into arts venues is actually the training that you offer your staff and volunteers about how to welcome people into your venue. So we will be looking at that as well. I also know that that in order to grow different audiences, especially from local global majority communities, and also deaf and disabled communities as well. This takes really long-term, authentic partnership work with local groups that can't be done over the night. It takes years and years and years to do. So we're going to be also funding a post to have a community outreach person on our team who's going to be working with groups and schools to get people into the cinema and loving cinema, because the cinema, although it's obviously a place of entertainment, it also plays an amazing part in tackling loneliness, increasing well-being, and we've seen that for years and years from running the cinema as it is, and we want to just grow that as well. Am I missing anything? Oh yes. Oh, seats. If we manage to raise the maximum amount, which I think is
£312,575.
Thank you so much, Paul. We will also be putting in new raked seating and new seats, so that the cinema experience for our current audience, but also new audiences, is really comfortable, and people just want to have a great time and come back again and again to our cinema.
Brilliant. That's really excellent. Thanks so much for that, Michaela, and really. Your experience in the sector really comes through, as well as and being able to wanting to reach out to people that wouldn't normally have that experience of the cinema. So that's kind of another extra bonus, I think. So Martyn and Helen, sort of similar question. You did touch on it before about how the funds are going to be used. We've been working with you for quite a while now, and I'm always amazed by how detailed and professional you have been and are in terms of putting the offer document together, the financial models, the way that you're project managing various different sources of finance, planning applications, working with the council. It's no mean feat, and I think it's, you know, real achievement where you've got to already. So if you could maybe give a little bit more detail on the use of funds, just to help investors understand that journey a little bit better, that'd be really useful.
Shall I go first on that, Martyn? As Paul said, so our specific raise at the moment is £150,000, and it's part of a wider raise over the course of the year. So what that £150,000 does is it enables us to build our next 2 homes, which is 1 2-bedroom and 1 3-bedroom home, on a site that's called the Dumpster Close Garage site. It's another Dumpton Road where Martyn is now. It was a really small infill site from the council. They're the sites that are coming through the council, small, difficult, awkward sites that need like super creative solutions on. And so it's going to build those next 2 homes, which will be again built to like the same really high level eco spec, etc. So so the first 150,000 is going to support those homes, and what it's also going to do is it's going to pay back. We've already run a loan stock raise. We were very successful in it, and what this raise does is a percentage of it, a minimum percentage, goes back to pay back some of the short-term loan stock on Plumpton Road. And the reason for that is our next 5 years is a process of ongoing development of different sites, and so what we're doing is we're just trying to wrap up everything together, so we have one clear 10-year period to allow us to get on with the development. So the wider development, so we've got planning permission on Dumpster Close Garage site, so we've done all the pre-development work. It went to planning. The loan stock raise is to support kind of the next stage. We're going to apply for some more grant funding, and we're going to secure long-term lending, which we're already in conversation about. We've already got agreement in principle from the mortgage lender that we work with, and affordable homes programme funding that we're going to apply for. And we've been super successful in securing all the funding, in fact, that we've applied for to date. Wider, we're looking at 3 other sites that are at different stages of development. So we've got Hinton Close, beautiful site, which is going to be 4 homes, 1 1-bedroom, 1 2-bedroom and 2 3-bedroom, and then another site which is just around the corner from the current one, which will be 2 1-bedroom and 1 4-bedroom homes. And then after that, there's a site that we're looking at building a kind of small like block of flats on. So they're all at different stages. The reason we work quite closely with Ethex on this. Originally we were going to go for a raise that was for the whole amount at once, but actually what we decided was better to do, as planning is one of the kind of major risks to the project, you know, because it's from a very initial idea through to like development of the site. What we decided to do was to raise it in stages around planning being granted, therefore like really kind of reducing that level of risk to investors. And also because it means, you know, we can generate interest at that time. You know, we get planning, we're kind of ready to go. So this is our first milestone raise, and then over the course of the year we're going to be raising them around kind of future sites as they come into the planning process. Obviously we've learned loads from our experience in Plumpton Road. It's quite difficult to develop. It's a hard job developing community-led housing. It's different from the norm. Paul's exactly right. We have this like very piecemeal bit of funding. We feel like we're constantly, you know, there's constantly things to juggle. There's constantly business cases to revisit. There's constantly like financial models to redevelop. We're in a time of increasing like interest rates. For us, you know, obviously we take our commitment to our existing and future investors super seriously. You know, we're rigorous in our modelling, we're rigorous in the fact that we don't waste public funds, which is part of the reason we're so, you know, our business case, our models, we send off to the different, we work in lots of different networks, we're in constant processes of conversation about them. Just because, you know, we're incredibly passionate about it and we take it very seriously. And what our hope is, I guess, is that as these are the first, Bunker is the first organisation, there's a lot of co-ops in Brighton and Hove, Bunker is the first organisation to be self-building new co-ops in a city in which it's quite hard, the market is very much against you. And we're really, you know, we're really keen on, like, as I say, using that learning to like feed back to the movement. So we're the first for a long time, which means it's hard, and we've learned a lot from that, but it also means that for other groups and other people coming afterwards who want to do this, it should be easier, and we're constantly and super happy to kind of talk to people and to make that process easier for others.
Yeah, brilliant. Martyn, I just wonder if you could touch on some of the experts or the expertise that you have as a co-op and the wider group, just to give investors a bit more of a flavour about what it takes to get these projects going.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so as a group, we've been kind of, like Helen said, we've been through quite a long process, and that has been a steep learning curve. I mean, there were members of the group who had been involved in the building industry before, but we hadn't built houses. So that's why we worked very closely with a professional project manager at first, and that project manager helped us get to a stage where some of our members got trained up, who then basically took that on. So we work closely with our architects, who are fantastic, who bring that technical skill in, and through them we have access to all of the other construction professionals, so the structural engineers, etc., etc. So all of our builds are kind of us working with really highly skilled people, and for several reasons. I mean, because the whole thing needs to be innovative. I mean, we're working in an innovative way. You know, the way we finance them is innovative. Sorry, I'm having problems on Tuesday morning as well. But the way we build is innovative as well. So we work with small and medium enterprises. We work with modern methods of construction, because the sites sort of demand us to be innovative. But also it's a great way to build, and it's quite exciting. And one thing that we found is that, yes, we work with all these professionals, everyone gets paid, they're going rate, but once people get into the project, they kind of take it on board as well, and it becomes a bit their baby. I mean, it's our baby, right? People we found go a bit above and beyond what they need to do, because they catch that enthusiasm. I think they realize we're trying to do something special, and you know, no one's making any money out of this. It's not for profit. It's not going to be for sale, but we're kind of pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And we're learning so much along the way. So yes, we've become very professional, but we're always, like Helen said, you know, our business case goes out it gets looked at through the council. It has to be robust, or you know, at so many stages along the way, everything we do kind of goes through this rigorous process of being tested for its robustness, for its kind of viability, etc., etc. And we're constantly revisiting it, because Helen said sands are shifting all the time, but luckily we have really good contacts with the manufacturers of the homes, the manufacturers of the windows, and all of those. We're constantly in contact with different contractors and suppliers, so we're kind of keeping abreast of where we are, which keeps our kind of financial projections building wise kind of within reasonable, you know, within the contingency plus contingency. So yeah, it's ongoing conversations with lots of different people, and we're all learning and they're all learning, and it's been, you know, the council also learning, and like Helen said, that's kind of opening doors for other people as well, because, you know, it's not something that the city had happened in the city for quite a while, so we've all kind of needed to learn as we went. But also we are part of a network, a nationwide network, in fact a global network of housing cooperatives. So we share information, they share information with us, we learn about best practice, we learn from each other, we help each other out, we follow the cooperative principles, and support each other. So yeah, does that answer the question?
That's a great answer. It's very, very comprehensive. Thank you, Martyn. And I think it's really good to see people taking their destiny into their own hands, because I mean, the UK market it's very different from, say, the continental market in terms of there's a lot more build overseas in Germany, France, or particularly Germany, I think. So we can certainly do a lot more of it over here, and being able to get the knowledge transfer and see successful people like yourselves, achieve the builds is, especially innovative builds in difficult spaces. That's a really fantastic thing to do. And also, let's not forget about the impact, because it does change people's lives, right? And it builds communities. I think that's a really important point to get across. So yeah, maybe we'll pick that up in a little bit. Michaela, I'm not sure if I asked you about the expertise of your board, because you've got a very decent board too. And just also folding in the question about why do community shares work for independent cinema and community owned assets? Do you feel that's an important aspect of having a successful raise and then going on to have a successful business?
Absolutely. So I guess taking your first question first about who is involved with running our share offer and the expertise that we have on the team at the moment. So the share offer is being run by a management committee of volunteers who set up the Ultimate Picture Palace Cinema Ultimate Picture Palace Community Cinema. It's a mouthful. And it's a group of 10 professionals who have been volunteering for this for the last 3 years. They've stuck with it, and they've all stuck with it because they love the idea, and they're dedicated to what it will achieve when we become a community cinema. So we've got lawyers and more than, I think, about 3 ex-head teachers, so they know their stuff about our communities and how to run boards. Also the head of marketing for an NPO arts organisation, a big museum. So we've got lots of expertise and knowledge on our board to drive this share of, and who have been particularly who have worked with me to write the business plan for the next 10 years, and then turning to the cinema right now, because the whole point of this is that once we become community owned, if we reach the target, all of the cinema staff will be retained, and our cinema is currently run by a small team, so it's myself and another 5 members of staff, and supported by 30 volunteers. And on the cinema team itself, we have between us 35 years of experience of running cinemas and cultural organisations. So for myself, I'm on Film Hub Southeast advisory board, which is the BFI-led advisory board for the Southeast. I'm an independent cinema officers for women's on their women's leadership cohort 2022. We have a strong track record of managing budgets of over £500,000, and we have lots of expertise on our team in terms of programming, marketing, community outreach, all of the functions that you would want for delivering a business plan for a community cinema. And our programmer is a regular speaker and a panelist on lots of sector forums and conferences, and he writes articles about film programming, and his particular expertise is within engaging young audiences. So we have lots and lots of expertise that's useful for a community cinema, and we also are really engaged with the other independent cinemas in the UK and around the world. We share lots of information around that. Now I've forgotten your second question. There was a second part of this. I was trying to remember what this was.
No, I think that sort of, so the first part of the question was the expertise, which you answered very, very clearly. So thank you for that. Um,
Oh, it was about community shares.
yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, so this is completely new to us. I mean, it's the community ownership model and cooperative model is quite new to, it's quite rare to have it within a cultural venue setup. You have them within pubs and shops, and actually some film clubs around the country are set up as community owned organizations. But the thing that is really exciting for me is that we will be able to draw upon so many different our owners will be able to engage with us on so many different levels, more above and beyond what they do now. Of course, people come to the cinema, which is great, but they'll be able to actively participate in our running and have a say and a stake in the cinema, which for me is the really exciting thing about when it comes to growing our audiences and really having a reach out into Oxford and East Oxford. For those of you who don't know East Oxford, Oxford is often thought of as a very wealthy city, but actually we have pockets and areas of deprivation. We're a very diverse, multinational group of residents, and so actually having community shares and having this new model that we'll be able to take advantage of all of the new connections that we have. So that's the exciting part for me.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic, and of course having members as shareholders, that's also a really big pull to get people coming back to cinema time and time again. So that's also one of the I think one of the factors that plays in favour of community share offers. And thanks for that answer, Michaela. So Martyn and Helen, I mean, so I think one of the things that I'm really struck by in the cooperative housing model is that and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in effect, you become a member of the cooperative to be in the house, to live in the house, to rent the house. And it's, I think what's really important point to make is how the houses they don't escalate from a price rise. They remain affordable in perpetuity, and you obviously know a lot more about that than I do, and just really interested to know why, from your point of view, the cooperative model works so well.
Martyn, you or me?
Go for it.
I think the cooperative model works well in different ways. So it's a not-for-profit thing, right? Which is why you remain affordable in perpetuity. In fact, you increase affordability in perpetuity, because if you're not trying to generate a profit, once long-term debts, short-term debts, etc., are paid up, that can be used. So any surplus that is generated goes back into the cooperative or goes to support more cooperatives growing, and that's Bunker's model to keep growing, to keep building more co-ops. I think it's about, for me, it's about more than that, right? It's about how we can come together as groups of people to work together, to develop housing that is shared, that is owned together. It gives people who have, if you're not fortunate to have a stake in the housing market, which often now is down to fortune and parents and so on and so forth, it's a way that you can have security and control and a home that just wouldn't be possible otherwise, and that is yours for as long as you want to live in it, and when you leave, it kind of goes to someone else. And I guess, also for me, I would say in this very, very individual society that we live within, cooperatives are a way to do things collectively and together, and where we, our group of members, you know, we started off, when we started like developing this, building these homes, we didn't know all of these things. We didn't have all of these skills we had, and we built them through doing it together, through experimenting together, through learning from all the amazing, amazing people that have gone before us, so that we can give to all the amazing people that will come after us. And that's like, so it is about affordability, and it's like critical to what we do, but it's also about like all of these kind of wider principles and values about how we should, how we'd like society to be organised, rather than how society is currently organised.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I could just add about the kind of rent levels that we have. So the way that basically, you know, we kind of collectively run the organisation, and the way that we kind of set our rent levels is that the rent levels are set to basically pay back the lending. So to pay back the loan stock investors and to pay back the mortgage, and also money goes to set aside for maintenance, extraordinary maintenance, things like that. So our business plan, so our rents are our only source of income, and we, as the runners of the organisation, we basically set those rents. So our rents are set initially quite low, and we're always looking for innovative ways to bring those initial levels down. We're hoping to get down to what we call the Brighton living rent, which is basically 37.5% of income based on the national minimum wage. So essentially it works out like, you know, it's not quite social rent level, but it's way below the local housing allowance, and way below what you'd pay on the market. So our rents are set at what's called a cost rent. So and every year we have a review. So that's one of the things we have in our sort of financial pockets, if you want, a toolbox rather. So if, you know, if for example inflation rates cascade out of it, we basically have the ability to kind of decide to put our rents up by a certain thing to cover that. So we kind of, but we are set to keep them low, and the rents that we pay in our homes are way, and I think it was, did it work out at like, was it 50 or 60 market rent, Helen? I can't remember what it is. It's basically that, right, for this houses that we built. And considering we're building houses that are kind of way above the quality of most rental housing, and we're paying way below what we have for them, that is the benefit. So okay, we're not the individuals owners, but we are the collective owners. We have a sense of ownership. We've got homes for as long as we want them. They're beautiful, they're secure, they're ours, they don't need a lot of maintenance, they're new, you know, all of those things. And it's amazing, you know. And as someone who's a direct beneficiary of that, someone who lives here for 2 years, I like to quote my partner, who says there's not a single day where she doesn't wake up and she just thinks, so grateful not only for the beautiful design and the wonderful natural living, you know, they're not damp, they're all of those things that the inaffordable private rented housing is, but also feeling so grateful to live here. And there is, you know, we're in control of our own destiny, like you said, Paul, and that's an amazing thing, because housing is one of those areas where it's very difficult to have control if you don't have the money, and even if you do, it's still precarious for most people.
Absolutely brilliant. I think that's a fantastic note to end on. Thanks, Martyn and Helen, and also thank you very much, Michaela. We're sort of coming up to the 45-minute mark now, so I would definitely encourage anybody watching to get onto the Ethex site and take a look at the offers. Some matched funding is coming along as well, which will help the offers get to their minimum and reach their targets. And just remains for me to say thank you very much to all our listeners and watchers, and thank you very much again to Michaela from UPP, and Martyn and Helen from Bunker Housing. So thank you so much, guys. Cheers. Bye.